I want to talk about the crypto collapse and what that means for you guys, what you guys can be doing as we head into the end of year. We got about 6 weeks of trading. I think there's 33 weeks with the market. I'm here trying to work through the rest of my year and then project what I want from my economics, from my assets for 2026. And I'm looking at going through our assets currently, looking at Bitcoin, looking at Ethereum, and I wanted to talk about it, but also think about the mindset and the amount of money that we all, at least potentially myself, should be setting aside for those types of assets, a little bit more, riskier assets when we're thinking about something along the lines with crypto. And so when I'm looking at what happened right now, Bitcoin's down 94K. It's been even lower than that, which is wild, right? Ethereum was at 3,100, which is crazy. And my initial response was like, holy crap, they're down at 3,100. We're down at freaking 94K. And my first gut reaction is like, uh-oh. But then my second reaction is like, okay, how can I buy more? And then my third reaction is, let's play the game of if this goes to 150, 200K over the next 2 to 3 years, which is likely, versus if we put that money into the market, into another, either an index or even some type of specific stock. And so I wanted to share a really quick story here where I have a very close individual who was investing in an altcoin. Okay. And I want to talk about the liquidation event. So we're going to go into why I think this is dropping so much. But my buddy spent over 100K into an altcoin. And he's like, I don't give an F. I'm putting it all here. And what my goal is, I want to come out here. And he on the other side had thought, because he listened to people that were doing these podcasts talking about how this specific altcoin would go to between $6 and $8, and he was buying in at 8 to 10 cents. And so he was convincing himself, and he did convince me a little bit, to put this money in, and that this was going to go to $6 plus, and he was going to have $5 to $10 million, like genuinely. Okay. And so I was asking him these questions like, hey, well, how are you projecting this? How will you know? And he is going through these cycles. And so I'm listening to the cycles, and I'm listening to what he's explaining. And back at the time, this is about a year ago, I'm starting to really, really dig deep into how I value companies and how I look at specific valuation with companies, how I project them over 3 to 4 years, where they're going to be 5 years, 10 years from now. And if I would put, at this point, AMD was valued higher. This is before the tariff collapse, but I had started to look at AMD as this beaten down stock. And I'm like thinking through, okay, if I put some money in here, what's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years based off the AI ecosystem and blah, blah, blah. What does this have to do with crypto? Okay. Oftentimes, people who put tons of money into crypto, they neglect to recognize that you might not have absurd games that you want to play mentally. And these mental games that they put themselves through when they're forecasting, they think they're like a guarantee. Okay. And you might not have the same gains, but the crazy part is that when we're looking at real assets like a company, the projections are actually like way more realistic. And you can actually quantify with way more consistency. Now, with that being said, and what's happening in the government and what's happening with crypto, and I think there's a lot of behind the scenes manipulation going on currently. So when people are asking me, why is crypto down so much? My first thing is, I want to buy in. My second thing is, again, I go and play the stock game. I compare with the stocks. My third thing here is, are they manipulating the price in a way because the government is trying to figure out some way to get into this because they're seeing what's happening? They see companies like SoFi are starting to get heavily involved with crypto. They see JP Morgan, Chase, all Goldman Sachs, all these big players are starting to really, really dig into the crypto space. There was this mass liquidation event, 3 weeks ago? Okay, and that I still think personally has a direct impact on the price currently. I think currently things have been down quite a bit. I've even been playing this game where I'm looking back to 2018, and I've almost thought that like 2025, I've said this multiple times on our videos, that 2025 is similar to 2018, and I've almost thought about it in an inverse way, where we had the big drop earlier in the year, and then maybe at the end of the year, we see a little bit of a drop off. Crypto in 2018, that was the bear market. That was the winter, the crypto winter. Not much happened. I think it went down actually with Bitcoin about 70% down throughout 2018. I don't see that happening. But what does this mean? Okay, what does this mean for everybody? One, I'm thinking through right now with my buddy, had he put that 100K in to AMD around the same time that I did, he currently would be sitting on about 350 grand, just in AMD. That's all he had to do. And in 5 years, by 2030, he's probably sitting around on a stock that's a $900 to $1,000 stock. The dude's sitting close to $1 million. And that's all he had to do. Now, what does that have to do with us with the crypto fall off? I think what we can do is make sure that when we're basing and analyzing our assets, I like to keep crypto at 15% of my assets or below. Okay, so that's my personal way of handling this. Personal money is personalized. Okay, it's individualized. So for you guys, you might want it at 5%. You might want it at 8%. You might want it at 10%. You might want it at 12%. I wouldn't go above 15%. I would probably keep it down below 10% if your net value is under $1 million. And what that does is it protects your emotions. You don't look at that crypto drop from 120K down to 91K and shit your pants. Instead, you're looking at that crypto drop and you're riding it out. You're in it for the long game. And I still think crypto, Ethereum, or Bitcoin and Ethereum, specifically Ethereum, it's down at $3,100. I might buy $500, $1,000 every week for a long time until it gets back over 4K, and then I might sit there. I might also play the game and go make some projections with other companies and see what I think, and I might not do anything. I might keep cash on the side. But when we're seeing this big drop off, we have to recognize there's the liquidation event, okay, that occurred. There's probably price manipulation on the back end. I think there's some crazy thing going on with these Epstein emails going around. I think I think the bank, the Fed, I think the government in general, looking at the Clarity and Genius Act, I think they're trying to manipulate price points for them to get in and to draw down the government debt to a point. I think that game might be starting. So I think we're seeing that volatility in the market. But if we just play the time horizon, it's a long-term play. If you want a dollar cost average in, you can dollar cost average in, and it's going to be something that will happen and it'll be positive for you 5 to 10 years down the road. Okay, and I think that's the big lesson, is that don't freak out, don't get skittish, don't pull everything out now. Just for me personally, play the long game and then make those price comparisons between different assets, and then you can decide what you want to do based off of your personal situation. That's what I think about with this crypto collapse currently. Hope this helps somebody out there. Until next time, peace.